You're listening to the Station 71 podcast with your host, Mario.
Beth.
Brian.
And Kirsten.
So this week we kind of talked it over and decided amongst ourselves that we were going to give some love to a park that doesn't really get appreciated much anymore. We're going to be talking about Disney's Hollywood Studios and all of the things that were in it, things that are going to be in it, all the things that we loved about it, and our feelings on the park as a whole. So should we start with like the opening of the park, or do you guys want to just dive right into like attractions and stuff?
You can start with the opening if you want to just talk about what you found out about how it was conceived.
Okay, so, I mean, do you want to talk about that little blurb that's in your book? Because I think that's mildly interesting and that's kind of cool.
So, essentially, okay, I have Marty Sklar's Dream It, Do It. We can put it in the show notes. And basically, what happened... Sorry, you were going to put a link in the show notes?
No, I was just going to say I'll put a link to, like, the Amazon.
Yeah. So what he's really talking about is Michael Eisner and Frank Wells working together, and how well they work together. And what he said is after Epcot opened in 82, he was working on a pavilion for Epcot called the Entertainment Pavilion. And so when he went to show the concepts to Michael and Frank, they all got really excited, and they decided that it was so good that they should not put it in Epcot, and they should put it next to Epcot and make it like a little half-day park. And it would add like another key attraction. And then another designer, Bob, I think it's Weiss, I can't remember if it's Weiss or Weiss, started working on it, and then the idea took off, and that right after that, they found out that Universal was planning a studio park of their own in Central Florida, so they decided to make this park a full-day studio park, and that is how it became MGM Studios.
So through my digging, similarly through that, I found out that there was actually like a lot of controversy in the early couple years before the park opened, and like through the first couple years of opening with Disney and MGM. Apparently, originally they struck up a contract that Disney would be able to use the name MGM in their park title, and they would have access to the MGM name to kind of use in their theme parks all across the world. But when this deal was struck and everything was signed, no one felt the need to inform the owner of MGM that they signed this deal with Disney, and he wasn't really happy with it. So apparently, the year before... I think it was the year before the park opened, MGM filed a lawsuit against Disney claiming that they were violating their rights in the contract by operating the park as a movie studio and like releasing movies with the MGM title in the name, which is weird because that was the whole concept of the park. So they went to court and battled it out for like a couple of years, and nothing really came from it until 2012 when the court ruled in Disney's favor. Well, then Disney decided to go back against them and file like a return lawsuit because the MGM was opting to open their own park called MGM Grand Adventure in Las Vegas. And that park only lasted from 93 to 2000 because of the whole shuffle that was going on with them and Disney. So that was another interesting little tidbit.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I didn't know that it had such a history of litigation.
Yeah, so it's really cool because one of the other things I was finding out was that in them winning the lawsuit, they won, like, the way that their contract was set up, it was an under 20-year agreement, and basically they paid, it was $100,000 for the first 3 years, and then $250,000 for the fourth year, and then it would increase $50,000 every year after until it capped at $1 million. And then that was the 20-year agreement that they had struck up. And then after that, a lot of people were speculating that that was the reason why they changed the name. But I think it probably just got to be too much between, like, the whole, there's another MGM park. they had this big feud with them, and then there was a whole bunch of other stuff that went on where MGM actually sold a lot of their movies to Turner Classic Movies, which is why Great Movie Ride was sponsored by Turner Classic Movies and all that other stuff. So there's like a whole bunch of big shuffle around that. So that would probably bring us into like the rides and stuff.
But let me go back, because you said in 2012 they filed a countersuit. Was that 1992 or 2012? Because I see 1992 written down.
It was, I have that in my notes, 1992 they filed the countersuit.
I was about to say, because 2012 is like a long time.
So when the park opened, there were 2 rides, which would be the Great Movie Ride and the Studio Backlot Tour.
Wow.
Which one do we want to talk about first?
We can cover Black.
Yeah, because that one's been closed longer, obviously.
Yeah. I always thought it was fun, but compared to like the Universal Backlot Tour in Hollywood, where you see actual movie sets and everything, it just was not that impressive. But I didn't see it in the early years. I only saw it like starting in the mid 2000s.
Right. I think it was totally different in its prime because you had all of that, like it would go through the streets of America and all the like closed off parts of the park that we actually got the privilege to walk through on foot now. So I think it was totally different then. And it was probably a lot better of an attraction.
Yeah, I have, I never got to experience it in its prime, but I have a friend who went in like the early 90s and remembers like going through the Golden Girls set, and I thought that was really awesome and was super jealous.
That would be pretty cool.
But as an attraction, even like I think the first time I ever rode it was probably like 2010-ish. But I thought it was really cool just because I'm kind of nerdy about like fake movie sets, or like movie sets in general, I guess. So I really liked Catastrophe Canyon and that whole like scenario. I thought that was really cool.
You know, to be honest, I can't even remember going on this attraction. I know that's weird, but I have been watching a bunch of ride-through videos to kind of, see the history of it as progressed along the way. And it is cool. It's definitely a very, very different kind of attraction than what you'd normally see at Disney. And, it fit in very well with the whole studios theming, so...
And I really liked how they used to have, like, all the props from... like real props from old movies. Like I remember going on it, and in the queue there was like a cannon from one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, or like the chicken coop from the Hannah Montana movie and stuff like that.
Oh, I do remember that.
Didn't they keep a lot of the old animatronics that they pulled out of kind of retired Disney rides too there?
I don't remember that, but I could definitely be just forgetting. I don't know.
The weird thing about this ride is it closed in 2014, and that feels like so long ago.
Yeah, I feel like it was in a steady downward spiral before that.
Oh, definitely. One of my like final memories of this ride was on one of my trips that we went down on for my 21st birthday. That's the trip it was. We were in line for the tour and everything, and we got up front, like right up front, and they were picking the people for the pre-show, and they saw that I was wearing the birthday button, and they were like, oh, do you want to do the pre-show? And we got all excited, we got all dressed up and everything, and as soon as we got in like the jumpsuits and all that, and we were getting ready to go out, a thunderstorm came over, and they were like, yeah, we're gonna have to call the show.
Oh no.
So we were like, okay, whatever. They were like, yeah, if you come back later, like if we reopen the attraction, you can just come up front and we'll tell you, you tell us that you were in the pre-show picking before that, and we'll just move you up front. So we never actually went back up front, and I never realized that was going to be like the last time that I would probably ride that ride. So I was this close to like going on doing the pre-show, and then they were like, yeah, no, Florida weather.
That's a bummer. I had a friend, one time I went, it was me and 3 other people, and they need, I think, 4 people total for the pre-show, and they walked up and asked us like, hey, do you four want to be in the pre-show? And I was like, well, you guys should do it so I can take pictures. So I got like the most awesome pictures of them in the pre-show, and like I love the part where they're just like, do not turn your head the other way, because they have that huge wave that comes in. It's like your entire inside of your jumpsuit is going to be soaking wet. Just don't do it. But I got really great shots from that, and I remember that really fondly.
The one thing I remember about that whole like pre-show experience was when we were walking up there, because we got all the way up to the point that they were going to walk us out. They let us actually pick our places in the pre-show too, which I thought was kind of weird. They were like, who wants to get the most wet? And all of my friends looked at me and they were like, well, you should just go with him. But unfortunately that never happened, so, it is what it is. Do we want to move on to the great movie ride now? Because I think we all have some strong feelings about this one.
Yep.
Okay. So the other one that opened with the park on May 1st, 1998, or 98, wow, 1989, oh my goodness, can't talk, is a great movie ride, and that's going to be the next attraction to close at Disney's Hollywood Studios. I feel like we kind of touched on like some of our feelings with this the last show, especially in its like later years, that it was very hit or miss. It all depended on the cast member you got. But I still have like a really fond like feeling about this ride. Just because a lot of the cast members you would get were really great and they were really into their role. And when you got that good one, it made the whole ride just something really special.
Yeah, one thing that always bothered me was if the cast member would try to make up for like enthusiasm with just volume, and you're sitting close to the front, it's like painfully loud. Like that always really annoyed me. My favorite part is the video at the end, like the movie with all the little clips of movies. Like that's what I'll miss the most, honestly. That's my favorite part of the entire ride.
And that's the only part that's been updated.
Yeah.
I always liked that there were two different versions of that ride, like the whole cowboy or the gangster thing. So it was always like you'd get on and you were like, oh, which one am I going to get this time?
I only got cowboy like one time ever in the history of the world. Was that like way more unusual?
I think I've only got it once too.
I don't think I ever got it.
I think the cowboy one was more rare.
So, yeah, not to rain on everyone's parade here, but yeah, I have to say I think the Great Movie Ride is my least favorite attraction at Disney. I know a lot of people, it's kind of hate it or love it, and I guess I'm in the one boat. I think a lot of what you said is true, that it's hit or miss depending on the cast member that you get as your host. And the issue with that is because it's such a long ride, for it to be kind of hit or miss depending on that, it's really bad if it misses, because it's a pretty big time commitment to make to it. Mm-hmm. I also think it was kind of one of those things, it really should have been maybe not the top tier, but near the top of attractions at MGM and Hollywood Studios. And I feel like over the years Disney kind of just let it drop off, and they didn't update it as necessarily as it needed to be, and just over the years it kind of time really took its toll on it. So I felt like Disney didn't exactly do right by it, and kind of with all these reasons, it's really not my cup of tea.
I
feel
agree.
like that's kind of the story of a lot of the attractions in this park. Like, they should have been good, or they were really good, and then just they didn't age very well.
Right. Because when you look at it, I mean, at the date, it was opened in '89, but look at attractions that were open well before that. None of them feel as dated as the Great Movie Ride does. I mean, the biggest thing that Disney didn't want as parks were becoming a museum, and I think the Great Movie Ride is the stereotypical, this ride has become a museum piece. It's just a look back at almost exactly how the ride was in '89, and no updates, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can give you that.
I definitely agree. I think it's, I'm not in the kind of group of people that hated it, but it was very skippable for me. It was not, I mean, I haven't been to studios in years, but I don't remember the last time I actually rode the Great Movie Ride that I was at Hollywood Studios, just because, like you were saying, it's so outdated, and me being in my late 20s, I have heard of all of those movies that are featured in it, but I've seen maybe 2 of them, and it just doesn't connect with the people in our age group, I think, as much as it would for people that were older.
Well, yeah, that's another thing. I mean, and even if it's not connecting with us, think about the generation below us now. They probably don't know much of anything out of that except maybe The Wizard of Oz. The rest of the movies are, they probably haven't even heard of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe Alien or something, but that's all.
Yeah, so I think it was time to lay that one to rest.
Right. I can agree with that. So after that, we've got the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular, which is still open. It opened in '89. This one's kind of hit or miss for me too. I feel like once you see this one once, it's pretty much, you don't really need to see it again, at least in my opinion.
Can I just say, I feel like I like this show better than the movie. That's probably really unpopular, but I had never seen the movie until a few months ago, and my husband made me watch it, and I was like, this is really cheesy and not that good. Sorry. That's how I felt.
Right. I don't know. I'm indifferent on Indiana Jones.
I think it's, like you said, it's kind of a one and done, but I feel like they have so many issues with this show. People are always missing their cue, and props are breaking, and
really,
it's just that's a lot of the times that I've seen it.
I've never had a problem with that.
Yeah, there was one time the propeller of the plane fell off, one of the little propeller things, and I don't know. And don't they have to cancel it because of storms too?
Probably.
A lot of the stuff in the studios they have to cancel because it's open air or covered by a metal sheet.
Yeah, so I think, like you said, this is a one and done. It's it's a big people eater, so I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, but they could definitely update it.
Weird,
Yeah, they definitely could.
I don't think anybody would be too upset.
Yeah, it's just one of those. If they're going to have a stage show like this there, not to say that the Indiana Jones franchise is dead, but, there's obviously a lot newer, more relevant stuff that they could put in the same space with kind of a similar type show. So, I don't know. I feel like the days are kind of numbered on this one. I think with the next batch of, Hollywood studio updates after this one coming up, I think we might see something new there.
Well, and especially with everything changing in the studios.
Right.
I think it's kind of out of the park's vision. But something that is going to stay in the parks, or move on to Star Tours, one of my favorite attractions in this park. This one's also kind of a people eater, or at least it used to be.
Yeah, it just amazes me how many vehicles they have in there, because it's you walk in, and if you're at the very end, you're walking for a long time.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's cool because this is another one of those rides where it's it can be a different experience every time you go on it, and that's really cool too.
Right. The new video system where, it's going to pick from the 3 different scenes, that was a great idea, whoever came up with that, because it really does keep it fresh, gives it a lot of rewritability, and especially with the franchise evolving and expanding and everything, it's just, it's going to be easy, too, to plop in new scenes and, have it updated pretty frequently.
Right, they can update this one, just by putting another movie in there.
Yeah, plus who doesn't love being the rebel spy?
I've never gotten to be the rival spy, and I'm really sad.
Aw.
Yeah, I haven't either. I can say I haven't.
I've gotten to
Yeah.
one time, but I've been with people several times that were like in my party that have done it, and I was always super jealous.
So after that, we had the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movie set adventure, which I don't really care either way about.
Whatever.
Opened in 1990, closed in 2016.
Good life. The end.
That's a pretty nice long life for what it was. I personally feel really nostalgic towards it because I remember it being really, really cool as a kid.
Yep.
But,
Yeah.
and again, just me liking movie sets, I thought it was really cool, but I can see why they decided it was time.
The only thing I would say really against it was the location. It really didn't seem to fit where they stuck it over there in Streets of America. It was just, you're in the middle of New York and then bam, there's a giant ant. Didn't really make any sense.
Goodness. I mean, I'm sure it was a good thing to like eat the people, but other than that, you know, like all the little kids
Yeah.
and stuff.
Get some energy
Anyway.
out of the kids.
You
Moving
can go
on.
to the
Moving on.
playground at home. Like,
Right.
Muppet Vision, I love Muppet
That's
Vision.
very true.
It was one of my mother-in-law's favorite rides, so it really reminds me of her. Every time we go, we have to ride it. I'm really glad they didn't take it out. I thought it was going to be on the chopping block. I know it's like
Yeah,
lame
I
and
was
cheesy,
really worried
but
about that too.
it's funny.
But that fits the Muppets so well.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
When is the last time that this got any sort of update? Like, have they ever tried to like remaster it or anything?
I don't think so.
They updated the queue after Muppets Most Wanted, and that was the last time they updated it. Because you got that the movie before it with like that little snippet at the end
Yeah.
Right.
that has like nothing to do with the rest of the queue.
But the one thing that irritates me is that they
But
don't
I-
let you sit down when you're waiting. Like, what is up with that? I just want to sit on the floor.
Yeah. Well, you kind of like crowd into that room and just like there's nothing else for you to do besides like look up at that TV screen, and you know after a while your neck kind of starts to hurt.
No, well, especially when it's empty, it's like, okay, let's just hang out here. But they're so strict. Anyway,
Right. What were you gonna say, Brian?
Oh, I was just gonna say, as a quick aside, while I was doing a little bit of research and digging for this episode, I found this video that was talking about the planned Muppet, basically entire land that was originally planned to be built at Hollywood Studios. This was when Disney was in talks with trying to acquire the rights of the Muppets with Jim Henson. It was right after the park opened. It was in 1990. And originally they were going to have, like I said, an entire land. And it was going to have a stage show, a parade, 2 restaurants. And what I thought would have been a really cool idea was they were going to have the Great Muppet Movie Ride, which was essentially going to be like a satirical take on the Great Movie Ride, except it was going to star the Muppets and basically go through all the scenes that the Great Movie Ride did, but had the Muppets acted out and, you know.
That
how
would
the
have been
Muppets-
so awesome.
Yes. But it was,
And that would have fit perfectly with them.
it really would have. So, unfortunately, during the negotiations and the planning for this, Jim Henson passed away in 1990. And so after that, once his children took over the rights to it, apparently they didn't want to sell the rights over to Disney or continue with this full planned land. So they did agree to continue with Muppet Vision 3D because it was the last thing that Jim Henson worked on before his death. And then also they did open up the stage show, which was called, let me see, what was this? Here Come the Muppets, which used to be in the the same theater that Voyage of the Little Mermaid is in now. But I just thought it was really cool to think that, they had this whole land plan, and what could have been with it, especially with the Great Muppet Ride. I think that would have been really, really cool.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
Well, it's interesting to think about too, because we're supposed to be keeping Muppets Courtyard, so like if they do add stuff onto it, we saw that with Pizza Rizzo, they definitely are acknowledging that the Muppets are still a thing. It'll be interesting to see if they put anything else there.
The only thing, I love the Muppets. I am a huge fan of the Muppets, and I really wanted to stay. But when I see the plans for the Star Wars expansion, it seems like it's kind of engulf all of Muppets Courtyard. So I don't really know, what they're going to do with that once they end up, finishing it.
Right. Hopefully it stays, and hopefully, like, even if we don't get another attraction, just leave Muppet Vision alone for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Anyway, we want to move on to the next one.
Sure.
This is one that I know Kirsten has some strong feelings on, because I said something about this in the group chat, and you were like, I refuse to believe anything, but this is like the best thing ever. Beauty and the Beast live on stage.
It is amazing. Except for I so miss 4 for $1, the a cappella group that used to sing before it. Did y'all ever see them?
I didn't.
No. I vaguely remember that.
Like the Dapper Dans.
Like very vaguely.
Yeah, I loved them. But yeah, I watch it every time we go without fail. It's my favorite movie. I think it's amazing. That's all.
I think this show could definitely use an update, but I love Beauty and the Beast, and I think overall it's a good show, but every time I see it, I find the costumes to be, like, laughable because they're just a little bit creepy.
Yeah, Mrs. Potts is a little weird.
Yeah, that's exactly who I was picturing when I was talking about this.
I think it's definitely like reminiscent of 1991. It hasn't really changed much, but I don't know. I like it. I think it's at least a decent enough people eater that they should keep it around for a little longer while they're doing the construction on the studios. It'll be interesting to see if they keep that at all after the construction, but.
Yeah, it's definitely still effective.
I can't say that I haven't watched it almost every trip.
It's the only time I can think of where I'm laughing at how bad the old costumes are, but then I still cry at the end.
I just feel like it's one of the classics that all generations love, and especially now with like the new live action, I feel like there will be a whole new group of little girls who are super excited about it, but maybe that's just wishful thinking that they don't take it away.
It makes sense.
I could see them, keeping it around because of the live action. But if you want to talk bad stage shows, I'm going to use this chance to segue. Voyage of the Little Mermaid. I cannot say anything good about this one. There's bubbles, there's a giant Ursula, and Ariel sings on a rock, and that's all I remember.
Yeah, I've only seen it once.
I actually kind of like this one.
Oh gosh, Brian hates Great Movie Ride, loves Little Mermaid.
I know. I can't explain the reasoning. I don't know. Something about it. Yeah. There it is. I like it.
Shun.
There's nothing wrong with that. You like what you like.
I've only seen this show a couple of times, but I very vividly remember one of those times that as soon as Ursula came on stage, the child right next to me started like scream crying. So that kind of tainted my memory.
I mean, that Ursula is creepy.
It is pretty intimidating.
Which, I mean, that's kind of cool, and it does kind of work in its favor.
Unless you're sitting next to a child that's scream crying.
This is also true. So after that, we got Tower of Terror.
Arguably the best attraction on property.
Speaks,
Yeah.
definitely in the contender for top attraction.
If not in the top 10 for that, or, well, no, top 5 for that, because, you know, it's definitely up there. It's the best attraction in this park.
Definitely.
And
Agreed.
that's hands down.
Strongly.
I'm just happy that they didn't touch our Tower of Terror. I mean,
Oh my gosh, I was so afraid.
and this is one that's like, it's so immersive and so great. Like the second you step into that queue, you feel the exact emotions that they want you to, just by like, you know, the outside's all nice and kept up until you start getting closer, and then you start noticing like cracks in the paint, and you know the fountains are off and everything. And just those little details definitely are one of the big things that I love about Disney World. Is it's just, it brings you into what it wants, and it just, you know, it puts you there.
Yeah.
And I can't say that enough about this ride. This is like my favorite queue too.
Yes, it does the best job of just building the suspense up as you go through. I mean, you start out in a relatively normal looking, you know, the grounds of the hotel, and it's like as you slowly progress into it, things just get a little bit more and more off until you realize that, oh crap, I'm in a haunted hotel. And it works so well with the theming.
Yeah. And I love all the nods to like the Twilight Zone show, just like the little props. Like the glasses on the desk are from a show, and then when you're getting off of the elevator at the end and you're in like that like storage looking area, and they have like the puppets and stuff that are from other episodes.
And the I don't want to give it away because I love finding out little secrets like this and catching little interesting tidbits about stuff. But when you're in the queue next time, look at the plaque on the wall that shows the different floors and notice the missing letters. That's all I'll say, but it's a really cool little, not a hidden Mickey, but along the same lines if you check it out.
You're gonna have to tell me about this when we're done recording, because you can't
Okay.
just say that.
Yeah.
All right. But for all our listeners, I'm not going to give it away. Just go check it out for yourselves.
Okay. Phantasmic.
So after that, we have Phantasmic. I love Phantasmic. I know a lot of people give it flack because apparently Disneyland's is better. And maybe that Pocahontas scene goes on just a little bit too long. But I love Phantasmic.
I adore
and I will say that.
Phantasmic.
Like every chance I get.
I love it. I just think that it's time to update the technology. Even if they don't update like the show, I just feel like they could get like newer floats and, you know.
Yeah. Nothing about the plot needs to change.
Yeah.
Just bring it into the 21st century.
They can get rid of the Pocahontas scene. I would be
That's
okay
probably
with
my
that.
favorite scene, actually.
Is it really?
I mean, well, I'm registered Native American, so, and I like love everything about my Native American tribe and like everything. So like the music and stuff, it reminds me of being in Oklahoma, like at the powwow, and yeah, I really like it.
That's kind of cool. I mean, I could probably agree with the fact that they should keep a Pocahontas section in there, like a little bit of it, but it just like out of nowhere, there's Pocahontas. And that's the thing that's kind of weird to me.
And
but,
if they condensed it, I feel like it would.
but other than that, like, I mean,
If
I
they
don't mind
condensed it, I feel like it would be, like, it would make the show more interesting to just make it shorter and maybe add another small scene, or not even add another small scene, just to condense it, because I feel like not a whole lot happens, like, for a lot of the time.
Well, that's like the slowdown of that show.
Yeah. I just love when she the light comes up and she's on the top of the cliff and it's like such a powerful woman. Like, I want to be up there, but that's all.
So it's weird because like there are parts of that section that are like you said, the whole when she's up on the cliff and they shine the light up there, that's really cool. But the like just the weird part where it transitions from what's going on before that right into the Pocahontas section, and then like that little probably couple minute chunk before all of that, it feels like such a slowdown. And then they pick right back up and they just keep going. But you know,
Yeah.
I love Phantasmic, and I listen to the soundtrack on a regular basis in my car and get emotional about it.
I mean, I'd be lying if I said I didn't do the same thing.
Yeah, I have it too.
Next up was probably the second best ride in this park. That's up to debate. Rock and Roller Coaster. I like Rock and Roller Coaster. It's one of the, few thrill rides that are like that intense. It feels like it may be on its way out, I think. Just because that also feels kind of dated. Mm-hmm. Because for the same reason, like, a lot of the younger generation probably isn't going to know who Aerosmith is in a couple years.
That's tragic.
As
Right.
awful as that is to say. Right. It's very tragic. But, like, it stinks because what else would really keep that ride the same? I mean, they could probably replace it, but then it's definitely not the same ride.
If they replace it, they'll have to do like Powerline or something. But I have like the biggest.
Oh, goodness. Cool.
Yeah. I have the biggest crush on Steven Tyler. He is like my celebrity crush. I've seen him in concert. I love him. So that's like why I love this ride, because I love going and watching him talk in the pre-show. And I know that's really gross. Everybody thinks he's hideous. I don't.
The pre-show is really cool, though,
I mean,
regardless of how you feel.
I love the pre-show. I quote that all the time.
Exactly. When I went to the Steven Tyler concert, I posted on Instagram with my hands on my forehead like him, and I was like, how about some backstage passes, Steven
Aw.
Tyler?
For some reason, I just really enjoy the queue of this. I know it's not like, I wouldn't say it's one of the best. I just think it's really, like, especially the part where you're, like, on the street about to get into the car. I just really like all the small details that they put into
Yeah.
that queue.
Yeah, because I'm not sure if y'all
It
guys
fits
know.
what they wanted it to do. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna just say I don't know if y'all guys know, but the roller coaster in itself actually wasn't engineered by Disney. That it was purchased from basically an engineering company that designs roller coasters, and there's actually I think 2 or 3 other ones. I mean, it's the exact same track. So if you ever want to see what it looks like with the lights on, you can just search for the other ones. But I think Disney did a good job of taking this off the shelf roller coaster and building a theme around it, doing a pretty cool queue for it, and then making it something more Disney-esque from something that really wasn't.
Yeah, definitely.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Me either.
So next one we had was One Man's Dream.
My favorite
And-
attraction, hands down. Cry every time.
I was going to just say I love it, but I kind of hate what it's turning into, because it seems like almost every time I go, they're kind of chipping away at One Man's Dream to add some other just IP grab in there for whatever's popular. They take away the movie at the end to do basically an advertisement for the upcoming Pixar ride. They've got a meet and greet in there now, and it's like slowly One Man's Dream is just kind of getting pulled away.
Yeah, I definitely tried to appreciate it last time I was there, because I knew that there might be a chance that the movie would be gone by the next time I go. I've heard that they take that in and out, like the ad videos, so I really hope that they take it out again. I feel like it gets not enough love from one-time visitors, for sure, and it's just so interesting, and it makes you just appreciate Walt and like everything that he created if you really spend the time to go through it and watch the video.
It's worth a walkthrough. I think anyone should give it a chance, but it's so easy to overlook, like you said, especially if you're a first-time visitor, not knowing what it is. It's not really going to show up on your attraction to-do list, but it's great. It really is. I wish they would keep it the way it was.
Yeah.
I think this attraction gets a lot of love from people like us that really do appreciate the parks for what they are, what they were, and what they are going to be. But like you said, it's kind of, if you come to Disney and if you're doing Hollywood Studios, you're not thinking of One Man's Dream. Like, that's not a big attraction, which is unfortunate because, with how many people things like Rock and Rollercoaster and Tower Terror eat up, it's stuff like this, like the little things that are actually really cool and, you know, really informative to go through and watch that get swallowed up whole.
Well, on that note, too, you know, I know a lot of people joke, and I joke around about it sometimes, too, that Hollywood Studios is a half-day park. And it is if all you want to do is go and ride, you know, the e-ticket attractions. You can go in there and you can do Tower Terror, Rock and Roller Coaster, Midway Mania, and Star Tours, you know, and be out of there in 2 hours. But if you really take the time to go through and do the stage shows, do stuff like One Man's Dream, and just kind of explore the parks, you can definitely make a full day out of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Me too.
Although, as someone who goes pretty frequently, I hate to say that I've skipped it the last few times. But I'm planning on going. But
it's also been like preview show the last couple times too. Like they've taken that movie out a couple times to play previews in there, which is a very scary indicator that that's not going to be around very long.
I know.
I'm wanting to say at least the last 3 or 4 times that I've been, it's been a preview show. So I can't tell you the last time I went, they were actually still showing the movie. So
That will make me very sad in October.
So,
Yeah. I know we can all talk about this for forever, but for time's sake, let's just jump on to the next one because I know we're not going to talk about this one very long. Lights, Motors, Action. Huge people eater. It had a big area, but I can't say that I miss it very much. I thought it was cool, like the first couple times I watched it, but now that the theme of the park is kind of going away, I don't think it really fits anymore.
It was good. It was just so unbelievably hot in that theater. Like,
Yes.
it was distracting how hot it was. So I would skip it just for that. Like, after I saw it once or twice, I liked it. I would, watch it to pass the time, but it was too hot.
Did anybody see the last show? I mean, I saw it on YouTube, but did anybody actually go to it?
No.
no.
Nope.
No. I just wish that I could have been there to see the driver drive through the doors on that set. Like, I just think that that's great that on the last show they didn't open and he just plowed right on through.
I forgot about that.
But this one closed 2016, and I can't say I miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely don't miss it, but as far as stunt shows go, I kind of wish they had kept this instead of Indiana Jones, but again, like the theming doesn't fit as well.
Yeah.
I just thought it was more entertaining.
Yeah. It's going to have a worthy replacement. It lived a
when
good
it was
life.
like,
So after that, we have Jedi Training, which, I mean, obviously none of us have done. Has anybody watched it?
I have. I've gone
it's
with
kinda cute.
cousins, the little kids. Like, I think they were like maybe 5 and 8 or so whenever they did it. And like, just passing by, it's like, okay, this is boring. Nobody cares. But like, when you have a little kid up there, it's like so fun for them that it entertains you. Like, I'm sure if they still have it when Eli is old enough to do it, I'll think it's like the greatest thing ever. But,
Oh, yeah. And you're going to have to take tons of pictures of that, and it's just, that's going to be an experience in itself. And I think that's probably why it's got some kind of staying power, is for the kids and the families that have the kids.
Yeah, and now with them trying to do this full immersion type deal when they open Galaxy's Edge, this is just going to fit in with that perfectly. So, yeah, I see this one staying for a while.
Yeah, definitely. And also staying for a while, we have Midway Mania, which always has way too long of a line for me. I can say that I've done this probably like 3 or 4 times.
The only times,
It's a fun attraction.
the only time I've ever done it is when I had a fast pass.
Yeah, this is definitely a fast pass one. It's good, it's a lot of fun, but
If not, it's a rope drop.
yeah, we
Yeah.
would do it at
Yeah.
Rope Drop. I love it. I'm super competitive, and so I like it because I feel like it's like Buzz Lightyear on crack. It's way better in terms of like quality. But it bugs me every time because I see these people who get like the weak highs, and I'm like, how do you possibly do that? I don't even come close. Like, I don't understand who is out there winning this game.
You know, it's the guy that has like tennis elbow once he gets off of this ride.
I feel like I have tennis elbow after I get off, and I'm not even close.
I always get off of that. My wrist hurts, and it's just like the weirdest feeling in the world because, you know, with Buzz, at least you're just pushing the button and moving.
Right.
But like, that's the only complaint I have about this ride.
The scene at the end is what really kills it when you're doing like the bonus and you're just like bam, 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 bam.
I feel like it has to be some ambidextrous like muscle man or something.
Oh, no, when I get off of it, I'm like sweating and I don't want to go
My
back out in
bicep
the heat.
is like killing me for the next hour.
My wrists are hurting just thinking about it.
I feel like even when they added that extra track, it didn't help with the wait time on this ride.
Oh my gosh, it has.
Like it did a little bit, but not like enough that I'm convinced that it's worth waiting for.
I haven't been there since they added the extra track.
It's still consistently very high.
Yeah, I almost never see it under an hour and a half.
Let's see. American Idol experience, no opinion. I think I did it once. That's all.
I saw it once. Yep, I saw it once because my little cousin wanted to do it. She got up on stage. She did it. We all left. I wasted probably a good like chunk of my day with that whole thing.
I never experienced it. So we'll
Yeah.
just cut that part out.
We'll go over that. Can we cut the next one too? Because I don't really want to talk about Disney Junior live on stage because I've never
seen it.
Never
Yeah.
seen it.
This might be my first year. If I go to it in October, I'll let you know how it is.
There you go. Well, because you're gonna have to go.
I mean, he's not going to know any different. He's only going to be like 8 months old, so...
This is true. So after that, we got, for the first time in forever, a Frozen sing-along celebration, which I have not done, and I have no opinion on.
I feel like Brian has a strong opinion on this.
I have not been to it, so I don't like it as much as Voyage of the Little Mermaid. So.
Oh, I thought you had seen it, and you're like, it's just them retelling, which that's exactly what it is. It's like, not even... I mean, they come out and sing, but it's mainly just like these weird storytellers who tell you the story. And also, I'm a terrible person, but it's super annoying to hear like all the little kids singing along off key. Like, this is not good. Y'all need some voice lessons.
Yeah, I totally agree. I did it just the one time just to say I did it and see what it was about. And it's just like, okay, these two storyteller characters that we've never met before, and then sprinkle in a little bit of characters that we do know, and then it's over. It's just, I don't know. Forgive my, I'm sure there's a better way to say this, but kind of seems like something they just pooped out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that was at the point where they were trying to shove Frozen everywhere they could. Mm-hmm. And that's the result.
Oh, are they not doing that anymore?
Yeah. Are they done with that?
I wish.
I mean, they've slowed down significantly.
True. Okay, Star Wars Launch Bay.
Launch Bay after
Have
that?
not been.
I haven't been either. I'm an awful Star Wars fan for saying that. You know,
Haven't been either.
we looked at it the last time we were there. We like walked past it the last time we were there, and like, I love Star Wars. My girlfriend could not care less about Star Wars. Like, she's seen the last couple ones, but she's never seen the like original movies, so I think that's probably it. But like, we walked by and I was like, "Oh, can we go in there?" She's like, maybe next time." And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? It's just a couple meet and greets. I'm okay with that."
See, here's what I don't get. Why is it over there in the animation courtyard?
Yeah, I'm very bitter about that.
Yeah, I'm not happy with that they replaced Animation Courtyard. I have to reserve judgment till I go. I feel like Star Wars Launch Bay is going to go away when Galaxy's Edge is open.
Yeah, it won't make any sense.
I think
for it
so,
to be
too.
over there.
I've been to Star Wars Launch Bay, I think maybe twice, and it's like I mean it's a cool little area. Like, the meet and greets are cool. I like that the Kylo Ren, has the glove that can make him have like actual like talking interactions with you. And then, but I have to say that the shining star of this is trading with the Jawas, because you can literally hand them anything and they'll somehow make it funny. Like whether or not they actually trade with you, it makes it pretty memorable. So I honestly am not even a Star Wars fan, but I always go just for that because they're so entertaining.
So while we were talking about the topic of Animation Courtyard, can we just give a little nod to all of the films that were made in Hollywood studios, like especially the animated ones? Because I looked up a list earlier, and a lot of things that are on there, I didn't even realize that even though it was like a 10-minute chunk of the movie or like 4 minutes of the movie, there was a lot of stuff that was done in there. Like the Be Our Guest scene in Beauty and the Beast was assisted in there.
Oh, wow.
There's parts of Aladdin that were done in there. 20 minutes of The Lion King, including I Just Can't Wait to Be King. Some of Pocahontas was in there. This is about 18 minutes of the film. Mulan, which was done in there. And then, of course, one of my favorites, Lilo and Stitch, was done almost entirely in there.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
So that's just... Yeah, there's a lot of... there were a lot of other ones that were like smaller movies, but it's really cool that they actually used it for what it was intended to, and they kind of, they did a lot of movies that I didn't realize in there.
Yeah, I had no idea.
So the next two things to kind of just move us along a little bit. Music of Pixar Live. I haven't seen that in person yet. Has anyone seen that?
No.
I
Because
haven't.
I'm reserving my opinion on it. It looks cute. It's just like an orchestra that plays Pixar music, so... And they have the characters, they'll come out and they'll, dance around and stuff like that. Like, that's cute, but I don't know. I feel like that's a temporary thing, too.
Yeah.
And then we got Disney Movie Magic, which is the projection thing.
Haven't seen that either.
Anyone have any feelings about that?
Yeah, I don't
Haven't seen
even
it.
think I knew about that.
It's like they play it. I don't know if they still do the Star Wars one or not, because I honestly can't say I've been to Hollywood studios much later than like late afternoon. But they play it in place of or before that, and it's gotten a lot of good reviews, but I haven't seen it because, like I said, it's not a whole day park for me. So then the last one on our list that we have a definitive date for, that I'm very upset about, and I think everyone else is too, is the Osborne Family Lights, which I'm going to get real sentimental about that real quick. When we started going with my mom's whole family, we went for Christmas almost like consistently every year with like the whole family. And we would do this every year. This was a thing that my grandma made a point to do every year. And she actually passed a couple years before the closing of Osborne Lights. And we made it a point to go with the whole family again. And, it was a very sentimental thing to watch the lights with my whole family and walk through the streets and just, see all of that and take it all in. And Christmas is one of my favorite holidays too, so it's another like super special thing. But the closing of that was very hard for me in a way. But definitely something very special.
Yeah, I can relate to that, not with the Osborne Lights, but just in general, like things that remind me of my mother-in-law. And now that everything is changing, it makes me think about, what she would think. Not that specifically. I liked it. I've only been once, but I know that a lot of people had like a huge connection to it. So I'm sad.
So
but I know why they did it. I realized that they
one of
needed
my-
the space.
Right. One of my big things in the parks, and we've kind of talked about this, I love taking pictures in the parks. Like, I will carry my camera everywhere I can with me, and, I've always got my nose buried in it, like, to a point that everyone always tells me I need to stop and just enjoy it. One thing I've never taken pictures of was the Osborne Lights, because that was something that our family always enjoyed together, and we always watched together.
Yeah.
So I'm a little upset that I never got the chance to photograph it. But at the same time, it's like, that's a thing that I'm like super sentimental about.
Yeah. Well, I know it sounds cliche to say, but it really was one of those things that to really experience it, you had to be there. And it's really unfortunate that, that they're gone now. But I mean, the way that the lights interact with the music and just the scale that it's on. I mean, you can look at the pictures and say, yeah, that's a lot of lights, but to actually be there and be completely surrounded by it, turn in different directions, and everywhere you look, it's just this incredible, display of lights. It's so hard to explain. And yeah, this was a real sad one to see it go.
I totally agree. The one and only time I got to see the Osborne lights was my first trip to Disney as an adult. So it was kind of like what sparked my whole, like, getting really passionate about the parks. And, it's super sentimental to me in that way, just because it's reminiscent of, kind of the beginning of it all for me.
And I think that's why a lot of people really liked the Osborne Lights, was it was sentimental. And I think Christmas in itself does a lot of sentimental, emotional things to you. So just to bring all that together is very emotional.
Yeah, it just seemed like everyone watching the lights were like in such a good mood. It almost like felt like you weren't at Disney World anymore in a way, because everybody was just like absorbing it instead of rushing from one place to another.
Right. It was a very like interesting place to just stop, and just everyone always kind of was caught up in the lights.
Plus, it was really fun because people would dance to the songs and stuff. I would always see cast members, like when I went, there were cast members like dancing along.
Yeah, I that's the thing that actually hit me like super hard when they closed it. But I mean, like I said, it's, I understand why. And, all good things always come to an end. But with that, let's talk moving forward for Hollywood Studios. Things we're excited about, things that are coming that we kind of touched on a lot of that with the D23 announcements, but just quick rundown of what everyone's super excited about.
I'm really excited to see what they do with Star Wars. I mean, I know that I said last time, and it's still true, that I wish they would do more original stuff instead of just using IP. But I feel like Star Wars is one of those nostalgia things for older people, and then there are people our age who watched it as little kids who love it. Like my husband, I had never really seen it. He got me into it. Now I love it, and I'm sure that, as our kid grows up, we're gonna be all about the Star Wars. I feel like it's one of those things that's so multi-generational that it's just perfect for Disney. So I'm really excited to see what they do with it.
I think you summed that up pretty nicely. I'm really excited about Star Wars. I think that's my big thing with the studios. I like that they're going to make it immersive, and hopefully they'll make it in a way that, I mean, obviously they're going to do it really well, but I hope that they do it as much justice as all of the concept art and all the flyover maps and everything say. With all that they've promised, it's super hard to be not excited about it. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, I'm not even really a huge Star Wars fan, like I said, but I'm really excited about this land because of the new technology that they're going to be bringing into it.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not excited about Star Wars Land, but I'm really looking forward to the Slinky Dog coaster, and I feel like it's getting no love. It actually looks pretty cool. They showed the overhead shot of it now that it's been completed, and it actually is a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, so it actually looks pretty cool, so I'm looking forward to the Slinky Dog coaster.
I'm really excited about the Pixar stuff. I hope that they're not going to let me down, and it's not going to be super small area of Toy Story stuff that's just kind of quickly thrown together, because that's such a cool concept for them to do. And the fact that they've been kind of quick about it too, is really exciting, but also really scary.
Right. It's an idea. It has so much potential to imagine yourself shrunk down to the size of a toy, and, they build a land to interact in around that. I do hope that, that they really go full on with the theming and do it right. So we'll see.
Lots in store for the future.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's annoyed now.
A lot of things to be excited about.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, once everything's done, we're not even going to remember, like, all the half-day park jokes and whatever. I think everybody's going to be blown away. I hope.
I hope so, too. I've always really loved the studios, even though there's, like, not a ton of stuff in there to do, just from the perspective that it's, like, it's a cool park to look at, or at least it was, before it got all construction walled. But even just like walking around and like looking at things, it's such a nice park to be in. And I'm hoping that once Star Wars Land comes out, once they do all the Toy Story stuff, it's not going to be that half-day park anymore. Which, if Star Wars Land is going to be as big as it is, I think that that's the case.
Yeah. I was just saying, I feel like all the big things there, like, they're all so worthwhile. Like, all the main attractions and the main shows, there's not really a whole lot of just kind of meh stuff, and now there's even less because they are closing a lot of that. But I think that, like Tower of Terror is excellent, and Rock and Roller Coaster, excellent. Like, everything is really good, and now they're going to add a whole bunch of stuff that's hopefully going to be really good.
Yep, I'm excited to see it 5 years from now.
The interesting thing about this and like the whole half-day park thing, with all the hype that's around it too, we saw the wait times for Pandora. I think we're going to see some very high wait times just to get into Star Wars and to get into Toy Story. Like, it's going to be an interesting couple of years for the studios.
I think this is going to be beyond what we saw at Pandora. I mean, Pandora is incredible if you haven't been, but there's no doubt that, the Avatar franchise doesn't have near the following that Star Wars does. So when you take all of this cool new technology, all these new rides that they're going to be coming with, and putting that with that kind of fan base with a franchise, it's going to be a madhouse when that place opens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So do we have any final thoughts on the studios before we wrap this?
I think we summed it all up just now.
I'm excited for it to become the park that I don't skip.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for it to just become a park that everyone loves again. So we can tie it up here, and then that's going to do it for us today, folks. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Station 71 podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcasting source, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/Station71pod, Twitter at Station71pod, and Instagram as well at Station71podcast. Hope you enjoyed your ride, and we'll see you real soon.